you have a token white and you're hanging out with your friend group of color, you need to ask permission from everybody in the group to bring your white friend. Like, don't just bring them with them. I might not be in the mood to deal with white shenanigans that day. That's all I'm saying. And another thing, it feeds into their ego. Like, don't let them think they're a good white.
So I'm making this video in response to a video posted by Charlie Cheon titled, "What Are We Doing to White People?" This video sparked a lot of controversy amongst the internet personality group and just over the internet in general, because a lot of people were saying that what Charlie's saying was right, while a lot of people was saying that what he was saying was just overall a negative and just promoting white supremacy and denouncing the hatred and anger by minority groups that are justified. Now let me just point this out. Over the past couple of decades, 20 to 30 years, we have been seeing a giant cultural shift from one that was targeted against minorities and there was a lot of hatred and a lot of misjustices towards a complete 180, a complete shift where now it is acceptable, okay, and even promoted to be completely racist, bigoted, malignant, vicious, and even violent towards white people. And let me explain exactly why this is a bad thing. Now, before you go ahead and jump on me and say, "Now hold on, my brother, don't be a coon," I need to make it clear to you that I am not a supporter of any type of racism. No, I do not think it was okay that white people back in the 1700s hauled black people in droves outside of their homeland and brought them on ships over to America to serve the purpose of building the country for them. I also don't find it fair that those same black people were subjugated to slavery by their black superiors in Africa. And that's, I think, a huge point of why people are getting things wrong when they have this debate, is that we are purposely using specific points in history to justify our malicious and ignorant behavior when we're not encapsulating the full story of what happened, we're not trying to learn or trying to move past all of the viciousness that used to exist. Now, obviously, living in 2023, we have access to an abundance of data. Some might even say too much information, with things like misinformation or fake news now being a giant topic that we focus on. And I believe that this exact trend purports fake news, because we are completely ignoring history. Throughout humanity, humans in general have utilized slavery, have utilized suppression, and have utilized oppression to build the very structures that exist today. Have those things always been targeted towards black people on the part of white people? Absolutely not. At one point, those two races, those two types of people had no interaction whatsoever. And yet things like slavery, things like oppression, things like caste systems still seem to have existed. Within completely white cultures, there were kings, there were queens, there was aristocracy, there was the poor, and then there was those who were considered less than dirt. In African kingdoms and in kingdoms of color, there were kings, there were queens, aristocracy, poor people, and those considered less than dirt. And so we see that this is a human nature thing and not a white nature thing, not a black nature thing, not a Latinx nature thing, if you will. This is not something that is a problem that exists because of race. This is a problem that exists because of humanity. Throughout humanity, slaves have been used in the most powerful black kingdoms, and they've been used in the most powerful white kingdoms. Slavery has always been a thing, and only recently, in the past 50 to 100 plus years, we have made it our duty to not only abolish slavery, but attack it and target it. And because our most fresh and recent example was that of the white man on behalf of the black man, we seem to have switched and adjusted our entire cultural memory and capacity to only include that as what slavery is, to the point where I believe that if you walked around the street and asked anyone under the age of 25, what do you believe slavery is, they will only be able to cite and reference white slavery on behalf of black people, where there was a white plantation owner who would whip and beat and overwork black people. However, I doubt highly that they would reference as far back as saying, well, in African and colored societies, those who lost during wars, those who participated in tribal wars and were captive or beaten or persecuted, forced to work for free, that also counts as slavery. And those were in kingdoms that were either completely colored or were dominated by those people of color. Now, to reference back to the Charlie Cheon video once more, I want to reference the women of color that spoke in those videos.
These are some things I noticed about white American culture. Being grounded is a punishment to them. That's what they call punishment. The least grounded, least balanced, most destructive race considers being grounded a punishment? Yeah. They also say really violent phrases. They say things like, kill two birds with one stone. Why do we have to kill the birds? Why is everything so violent? It's almost like one's language and phrases reflects one's nature.
So that new Jeffrey Dahmer movie on Netflix is the perfect example of the sensationalization of white violence. People have a much easier time sympathizing with white criminals than they do with black victims. People think these shows are harmless, but they actually contribute to a much bigger issue. It contributes to the viewpoint that white people are less violent than everyone else, and white violence is something to be consumed in media, and that's it.
What is with Caucasian people and like their inability to like read a fucking room? Like, y'all act like you don't understand shit because y'all be the first ones during a conversation about the Holocaust to get so mad when black people be like, you do realize that the original Jewish people were black, right? White people do not need to explain to anybody about us all bleeding red because, baby, you all are the people that need to learn that lesson. Clearly, history shows that you all are the people that like to pillage and eradicate, enslave and oppress, attempt to suppress greatness because you all simply don't have it.
Right? Here go y'all cum goblins who don't even live in the fucking city. Which, by the way, the Q-tip people are the last ones to ever talk about somebody stealing anything. Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all stealing it. So y'all are more focused on people looting and trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity thing. You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing and you would never. First of all, if you are a Mayo monster, that is how your ancestors got everything, from stealing.
And I want to say, my sisters, y'all need to close your mouth and fix the point that I am going to address right now. African American women represent some of the highest, if not, I'm pretty sure, the highest level of single motherhood in existence. Not only in history, but in the existence of humans in general. Black women, fix our problems before you focus on the problems of the white man, of the white woman. We have our own problems with our own communities that you are completely ignoring, and yet here you are on Twitter, on TikTok, just spewing a bunch of absolute nonsense, completely disregarding the facts of history. Because in 2023, there are no laws, regulations, rules, stereotypes, or any of those things that are prohibiting black women from being able to have the same capabilities and capacities as white women. Now, you might believe that they are. You might say, well, my hair allows a white woman to be able to just wake up and go to work and not have to worry about. Or you might say, well, because of the overrepresentation of toxic masculinity in our black communities, that's why there's such a high level of single motherhood. But what you're doing with all of those things is completely disregarding all of the ignorance it takes for a woman to end up with a child on her own with no father in the household and no one willing or able to take care of that child other than herself. The prevalence of single motherhood in our community is single-handedly destroying our community. And why is that? I'm not gonna make any points that might come to a conclusion. But all I'm saying is that is a community problem within our community. And yet here we are worried about exactly what it is that white people are doing. So to the black woman in that video, and specifically the one with the drink in your hand, staring the straw, talking about idioms, phrases, figures of speech, and trying to connect it to some sort of white supremacy, fix your problems. Fix the problems of our community before you go and try to blame it on some other community. Because trust me, white people have their problems of their own. They have their own issues and they have their own structural, cultural issues that they need to address. But we have our own. So let's address that before we go ahead and try to address other things. And then to address the other white people in this video who unfortunately again state that they hate their own race, that they hate their own people.
We are both white women. We are inherently a danger in spaces for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color simply by existing.
It's white cis men who are a part of the far right-winged ideology of fascism. That is a true threat and the terrorism to this country.
If BIPOC stand in the street and scream at the top of their lungs, I hate all white people, I want all white people to go die, die white devil, you cracker bitch, that's still not racism.
You're not one of the good white people. Stop separating us from the bad white people. Don't sit out there in comments and say, we don't claim them. We are them. We are the ones shooting up schools. We are the ones raping people, the ones enslaving people.
And I'll say it. I hate being white. Which means I'm one of the good ones.
All white people are inherently racist.
Yeah.
Can you be racist against white people?
Based off of the definition of racism, yes, but it's not gonna hurt them and hurt their opportunities like it does people of color.
While technically you can, it's not like an issue.
You can't oppress the oppressor.
You kind of sound like what black people would call a coon, okay? You sound like you're trying so hard to join and be a part of the good guys that you're willing to abandon your entire people. I mean, you want to point out something like why the presence of school shooting is so frequently a white male or so frequently represented by the white population. That is a great point to point out. And there's a great issue to bring up. Maybe there's an issue within the white community of completely ignoring the struggles, the depression, the anxiety, the over-medication of these white young men who are doing these school shootings. Maybe there is a cultural problem within the white community that needs to be addressed within the white community. Maybe, and just maybe, we need to take a step back and instead of trying to pick points from other cultures and try to blame our cultural problems on those people, maybe we have a community meeting within all of the cultures, utilizing the very same information you are currently using to hate each other and spin it to make it positive. I mean, we have access to communicate with anyone, anywhere in the world, at any point of time, whenever we want to, and we use it to do things like this. Fix yourself. And to Charlie Cheon, thank you for posting your video because even though you're a smaller channel, you hit over 2 million views within less than a month, or sorry, within 1.5 million views within less than a month, and you really started some very powerful and critical thinking amongst content creators, against people on TikTok. And while there are those who are going to immediately watch your video and hate and say, oh, this is bad, this is him promoting this, I really, really do appreciate you going ahead and uploading this video to really, really highlight exactly how bad things have turned. I mean, there are white people in these clips saying they hate the fact that they're white. Again, let's replace that phrase white with black. If a black man came out and said, I hate the fact that I'm black, my people were enslaved and we have the highest rate of idiocity and we have the lowest IQs and we have the lowest paying jobs, we have the highest rate of single motherhood, I hate being black. What would you turn around and say to him? Let me guess. Oh, don't worry, baby, it's because the white man oppressed you. No. That doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be a part of that statistic. And your race does not have anything to do with that. And rather, it is your upbringing and those who you are surrounded by. So, again, thank you, Charlie Cheon, for taking the time to sort of point out exactly all the problems that exist with us hating and just outright being racist towards white people. We cannot just partake in the systems that once held us back by devolving back towards it, which is what is happening. We grew so far from it. And now, for some reason, remembering all of the hatred and even being able to look at it in our history books and look at documentaries, we're still not avoiding history repeating itself. Because a society where white people are the slaves and colored people are dominant is no different than a society where white people are dominant and colored people are the slaves. Regardless, the society is unjust, unfair, and broken. Let's all take a step back, all take a breather. Let's all think about the problems we can actually fix within ourselves, and then maybe within our communities, and then maybe we can touch on these huge theoretical and racially topics. That's going to be it for today, dreamers. Please stay open-minded. Please be open and willing to have conversation with people that don't agree with you. And until next time, until the next video, dreamers,